What's up, beautiful people, and Merry, Merry Christmas and happy holidays. So, again, if you don't know, I am Coach Alicia, and we will be having another Wellness Wednesday. So if this is your first live with me, welcome. If this is not your first live, welcome back. And if you are catching this on replay, shout out to you for making time to get this good old wellness in your system. All right. So again, with the holidays being here, I just want to wish again all of you happy holidays, and just want to remind you to really take it in of I know some people celebrate, some people don't. So if you don't, I'm not talking to you. But for those who do celebrate, I want to remind you to just remember, why you're celebrating. And I just keep it at that. But another thing, because we are a fitness group, I want to remind you to make sure that when you are any type of holiday, celebrating a holiday, that we don't just associate it with food. A lot of times when it comes to, whether it's Christmas, whether it's Thanksgiving, whether it's any other holiday that revolves around, we make it about food, right? But instead of making it about food, especially if you're working towards fitness goals and nutritional goals, remember to make sure you are taking this time to do those traditional things with your family. Make it about family. Make it about fellowshipping. Make it about making time to create new memories. But for those, I'm not gonna sit here and act like food ain't gonna be there. So I do want to give you a few tips, things to think about on days when you are celebrating the holiday and you're around, that good old delicious food that comes around, on the holidays. So some tips to keep in mind is when I like to, things that I like to do when I go to a family member's house, and I know there's going to be some temptation in the room. I eat before I go, okay? Because a lot of times we'll make poor decisions when we're hungry. At least I know I can, and I will, and I do. So if I go and I'm not super hungry, I am more likely to, turn down the foods that I know may not meet my current goals for myself. So make sure you don't show up hungry. Go ahead and put a little something in your system. And also, another thing I like to remind people, if there's like a little snack table or whatever around, try not to linger around that. You know how it may be like a snack. Matter of fact, prime example, I went to a Christmas party a couple weeks ago, and they had a nice setup, little charcuterie board, little fruit, but there was some other little stuff out there too, little cookies and little cakes and stuff. And it was easy to just stand there, grab and talk and grab and talk. But before you know it, you're like snacking so much you don't even realize it. So instead of doing that, be conscious of where you are in wherever you're celebrating. Make sure you're not just standing around the food, because a lot of times it is so easy for you just kind of grab and just not even thinking about it. So let's practice mindful eating. And another thing too, if you are on a stricter routine right now and you don't want to use it as like your celebration meal, then I would recommend, you know, letting whoever house, that you're going to, or maybe it's your house, go ahead and have your Tupperware of what you want to eat with you. And make sure you let people know though, because you don't want to offend anyone. Like, oh, it's not your food. It's just that I had this plan and I'm just trying to stick to it. So that's another option too, is taking your food with you or taking your Tupperware with you if you know you're going to have to, eat later. And then the last thing that I will say, if you do decide to, partake in the food that's there, just enjoy it. Don't make it like, don't overindulge, but I also don't want us to look at food as this bad thing. So the first set of tips were for people who, just need a little bit of guidance on how to stay more disciplined. But at the end of the day, if you just happen to, go and you're eating things that you don't normally eat, don't dwell on it. It was a day. It's not gonna ruin too much of your progress. But make sure we don't just make it about food. Is the point I'm trying to make. Make it about family. Make it about memories. Make it about tradition. So that's my little spiel on, trying to stay disciplined when you have all the goodies around you during the holidays. But without further ado, I am super excited for today's guest, I'm going to actually go ahead and let her introduce herself and we can get into today's conversation. Hello, hello.
Hi, Alicia.
How you
Thanks for
doing?
having me today.
Yes, thanks for being here and happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
So, before we get into everything, I want you to take this time to introduce yourself and let the people know who you are and what you do.
Okay, my name is Tamala Reed, formerly Singly. So if you look me up online, it might still say Singly. But I am with the Forgiveness Connection, and that is my business that I started. And I do holistic mental health therapy. And I'm in Somerville, South Carolina.
Whoop, whoop. Yes, see. I love it. I love it. So before we get into today's conversation, which I'm super interested to talk more about forgiveness, is what we're going to be talking about today. Um, let us know a little bit about your E2M journey.
Okay, several people in the Somerville area started doing E2M, and I started noticing some of the friends and colleagues I had slimming down. So in 2021, I went to a wedding, and after I saw the wedding photos and what I actually look like in my dress, I was mortified. I didn't see myself as that person in the picture. So I secretly started E2M on a Tuesday, and in the first year and a half I lost 100 pounds.
Woo! Come on now. I wish I had
Yeah,
more
it was
mama.
amazing. And since then, I'm up about 20 pounds from that. But I honestly, more recently, about a year and a half ago, went through a really traumatic breakup of a love situation, a marriage. And I had to step away from E2M for a hot minute because of just managing my mental health. Being a
Yes.
mental health person, I didn't realize how connected they were. And I was getting so rigid with myself. I was beating myself up if I wasn't doing it good enough. And I don't know about you, but I'm sure you found out along the way that the more rigid you are, the more something doesn't change. Whether you're starving yourself or eating the right things or working out too much or not, rigidity is kind of a way of you stopping, your mind stopping your body from actually making progress. So
Absolutely.
I had to take a step back.
Okay, well, I'm so glad that you were able to like listen to your body and to your mind and just actually doing that for you because a lot of times we don't we know it, but we don't take the time to listen to ourselves and make the appropriate adjustments. So the beautiful thing about E2M is come back in and hop back in and here we are.
I
So
know exactly what to do, don't I?
yes, yes, yes. You got to get those tools, and that's what we want each member to take away from E2M is just being able to have the tools. Of course, we, have you going through step by step, or here's the meal plan, here's the workouts, but just being able to take those tools and applying it to your life and using them when you need to. So
Yes,
my
ma'am.
first question though for you, we're gonna hop right into today's conversation is what does forgiveness have to do with my physical health?
That's a great question. When I started this journey with E2M, I think I was still kind of figuring that out. I knew that I had said I had forgiven people before, but I didn't know all the research behind forgiveness and just the statistics. Did you know that people that forgive more don't have high blood pressure? They
Mm,
don't get sick as much. They don't take as long to heal from an illness or an injury. In fact, there was one study that was a Harvard study that talked about people getting having a heart attack and having heart surgery, and the key factor to their recovery was whether they had a person in their life that they were connected to and had forgiveness in their life.
okay. I
So
mean,
forgiveness has a lot of links. And like I said, when I started my journey, I thought I had forgiven a lot of people. I had said the words out loud,
yeah.
but really it's a transformation when you truly feel the forgiveness that you're giving. Because forgiveness says, I want them to have a good life. Forgiveness says, I want what's good for them, not I want them to suffer while I have a good life.
Right.
So I think people get stuck there sometimes.
No, I like that. And I mean, the thing is, I mean, I'm a forgiver, I like to think that I'm a forgiver. But to your point, it's definitely a journey. I don't know that I was always a forgiver, but I know how I look at things is well, what's the point? There's no sense of me being so upset with you, losing sleep over something that maybe somebody said or did. And for what? When in reality, they may not even be thinking about that. So here you are over here stressed out. Like you said, it's affecting your progress because it I'm sure a lot of times with stress, well, not a lot, I'm sure I know when stress can come, overeating or lack of discipline or lack of energy to even do things. And a lot of that, I'm sure, is the people holding grudges and just not forgiving. So I can see how it definitely relates to our physical health for sure. I definitely can. So you hear that, everyone? Make sure you forgive. But have you ever heard of the saying, forgive but don't forget? Is that still good?
Well, it's interesting because your body really tells you to never forget. There's a great book out called The Body Keeps the Score, and it's by an MD doctor who does a lot with trauma work. His name is Gabor Mate. And the book, I'm sorry, Bessel van der Kolk, sorry, different author. But the book is pretty amazing because it tells you, even though you might say you've forgiven and you've moved on, that your body never forgets anything that happens to it. And that actually has to do with a part of your brain called the amygdala. If you
Mhm.
went kind of cross section in on the right side and kind of down in the middle, you'd come across the amygdala. And the amygdala lights up bright red when something bad is happening to someone. It also lights up bright red in an MRI if you're just watching something bad happen. It doesn't even have to be happening to you, really. So you can really convince your body that the trauma is happening. And once it's happened once, oh, your body's not going to forget that. And that's really what the forgiveness work in my office is all about. It's about going back, using muscle testing, going back and going, hey, when whatever Alicia is dealing with right now, when's the original time her body felt that similar emotion? Because that's what you're responding to, not the current stressor, which might mean, you had a fight with your mom. It may not even be about the fight with your mama. It might be about something that happened a long time ago that involved a similar emotion, or your mom.
Mm, okay, let us know. Give us. You're teaching us today. I love it. All right, so I'm
I'm
gonna hop.
trying.
No, you are. My second question is, what is whole? I know you mentioned that you are holistic mental therapist, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so, for those who may not know, what is holistic mental health care?
Holistic takes a three-pronged approach to your healthcare. Really, we are a mind, we are a body, and we are a spirit. So it definitely looks at more holistic approaches like a non-medication approach. I will tell you that 80% of the people that come to me for an extreme anxiety or depression are already on a medication sometimes. I'll get those people that are on nothing and they refuse to take a pill. And again, remember that's rigidity,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not taking action out of love. It's saying, I'm never doing that. And there's a difference in those two statements, right? Sometimes you need to take the pill, right? It may not be for the depression, it may be for, a medical condition, but I never judge people that come in taking medications. I will tell you, I had a holistic journey that's been about 15 years long that started with my son being really hyperactive and the school wanting to medicate him. And sorry, my mom just tried to call us.
Hey,
Thought I
mom.
had that on do not disturb.
Let me see. Hit
Can
that
you
thing
still hear
twice.
me?
Yeah, you're good.
Awesome. I silenced it. So yeah, so it started because my son was going to get put on a medication and I didn't want him to have a record of needing a medicine at 5. I really thought I could do things to prevent that. So I started looking at diet, nutrition, limiting, not letting him have red dyes, and doing everything holistically. And honestly, that's when I found magnets and muscle testing and forgiveness. And I found the work that I do with the EPT therapy now. It really came from having a baby that had a lot of energy. And it was funny because he was a preemie baby, Alicia. So guess what they give preemie babies to make their lungs function? Caffeine.
Mm.
So it wasn't an accident. I had a baby that had a lot of energy. Also, my baby almost died. So
Mm.
think of the energy and emotion that's behind having to fight for life. Of
Yeah.
course, he's working harder at things. So he just has a little bit more energy than the rest of us, right? And all of it matches that birth story.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So yeah, that's how I kind of got into the holistic realm.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say definitely you're a mind, a body, and a spirit, Alicia. You cannot give a pill to a spirit and make it different.
I don't know. That's
You
right.
can
Yeah.
absolutely give a pill to your body and make your body do something different, or to your mind and make you not feel something,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if we're being honest, I want to feel the sad things that happen to me, because if I block them and then something really sad happens, I'm probably going to feel all of it.
Mm. That's a very interesting perspective to have. Yes, I know for me, definitely a holistic approach is what I like to typically do for things. But I did find myself, um, which I don't talk about it much, but I was on like medication for depression and anxiety, and but I am one of those people that I'm like, no, I would never. I was that like I don't even taking no pills, I don't take no medicine, I don't. But it was just to the point where I'm like, you know what, let me just try
Yes.
something because
Yes.
something. But this is before like anything holistic was not something that you don't really hear about it. You hear about it more now, but growing up I didn't hear about anything talking about no holistic approach. You go into the, you don't feel good, you go to the doctor, you get some medicine, you lay down,
That's
or
right. And that's
or
really the Western medicine model. And with therapy, all we've had for 100 years is talk therapy and medication.
yeah.
So that's why when I talk about EPT and talk about the difference in this approach that I use in the office, is that really it's just a different approach. It
Hmm.
may seem weird, it's a little different than traditional talk therapy, but I believe in energy and I believe in God, and I believe that He made all the energy. People make it good or bad.
Yeah.
So, that being said, there's a lot we can do when we just sit with someone, hold the space for them to feel what they haven't been able to feel, and start with forgiveness.
And you said start with forgiveness. Let's tap into our third question: is what is forgiveness and what does it mean? Like, what
That's
does
a
that
great question. Let me tell you what forgiveness is not. Forgiveness is not letting the other person off the hook. It's
mean?
stepping out of the space of you holding them accountable and letting your divine creator right the wrongs,
Mm,
right? It's saying, I'm letting go of this. Obviously, with forgiveness, there are bad things that happen to children and people all the time where they couldn't stop something bad from happening. And I get that. That is a little bit different. And I can understand where they wouldn't trust people. We want you to be safe. That's the most important thing. So we need people to feel safe. But when they're ready, this is a great space. The therapy office, whether you choose traditional therapy or something alternative, it's a great space to just say, hey, I'm ready to forgive. Can you help coach me through it? Because I don't even know what to say or do. And
mm,
honestly, a lot of times in the office, I will start with, I raise my level of acceptance, meaning I haven't quite decided I want to do this yet,
mhm,
but help me get over the hump. I raise my level of acceptance to considering that forgiving that person for what they did frees me, not them. I want
mm,
to be free
yeah.
to move forward in my life.
Mm. So, in addition to being free from yourself, what are some other health benefits of forgiveness? Like,
Mm.
I am very intrigued to know some other great things that we can.
Well, I told you about the lower blood pressure.
Yeah.
People that forgive just report living a healthier, happier life. They're just genuinely more happy, and you can read it on them. You can see it on them. Honestly, before I started my forgiveness journey, I was on medications. I
Mm,
had had some trauma in my life. And honestly, the hardest one to go off of was the one for heartburn, because they put me on it when I was pregnant with my baby.
mm,
So literally I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've been on this for like 5 years now. How do I get off of it?" It was
mm,
basically telling my stomach not to digest the food that I was eating,
mm,
because that's what it does. It
mm,
it doesn't allow your stomach to produce the acid. And if you read the label, it actually says to only take for a couple weeks unless a doctor tells you longer.
mm. And
Well,
you
I
know,
never went back and revisited that, right? So when I got off of that, I felt like that was huge. I detoxed off 7 meds a day when I found forgiveness work and found holistic living. And my journey just catapulted, right? Then I moved to South Carolina, started the business, and just really got immersed in forgiveness. And the very last piece of my forgiveness journey is why we're talking today. It was the food part. It was the health part. I was like, ain't no way I'm giving up my coffee with cream and sugar and all the things, and I'm gonna eat whatever I want because I've had bad things happen to me. I deserve it.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna stop drinking my wine. And
Mhm.
honestly, I would be out doing my cardio. I couldn't sit Indian style when I started E2M. I could barely get the circuits done. So I just started doing the circuit the best I could and walking a mile a day, walking, could not run. I was 250 pounds almost. So
Mhm.
literally, I would be walking and the anger was just coming out sideways. The anger, the resentment. I didn't want to have to do this. I hated myself. I hated my body. From a mental health therapist, that's not a good setting, right?
Right.
So I thought I was way further along in the process than what I really ended up being. And that's when I had to take the pause and go, you know what, girl, you can only take action out of love. If you're
Mhm.
not doing it for love, you don't love yourself. There's a reason we don't touch a hot stove. It's because it's hot and we're going to get burned and we don't want to hurt ourselves.
Yeah.
So I question myself on everything I do on a daily basis. What is my motivation? Why am I doing this?
Mm.
And if it's not because I love myself or someone else, and that can even be questionable. Am I loving someone for the right reason? Right.
Mhm.
So complex, but really, when the crying started coming out sideways, I knew. I was like, whoa. And that's really when the transformation happened for me. And I'm so thankful to E2M for that. That's because of Jeff Spoon and because of you ladies and because of E2M.
I love that. Oh my goodness. Like I'm just as I'm hearing you speak about all these things, kind of makes me reflect about just things that I've been through in my personal life. And I'm sure our audience is probably doing the same thing, and it makes you reflect. And like I said, luckily I am a person that typically forgives, but I can see how you know you going through such a hard thing in your life, allowing it to be an excuse, right? Because that's all it is. It's an excuse of, like you said, I deserve this. I've been through this, because and I won't tap into it too much because I don't want to get emotional. But when it comes to like grieving and death, like I know for me, many, 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 many years ago, like my father passed away when I was super young. I was in middle school, but it wasn't until probably my adult years where I think I had more time to reflect, and I got angry. Like it was so weird. It was just kind of like I had to be like a little over, I think like around when I was like maybe 22, 23. I don't know what it was about those particular years. It was like I got angry. Like I lost my father. Like why did I lose my father? Then I lost my brother. Then I lost my grandmother. It was
Mm.
just kind of like why? And I had kind of got into a bad habit that I just keep up to myself. But I got into a bad habit, but I use it as an excuse. And I've always been super active, and I've always been like that. Oh, I'm going to work out all that good stuff. But that habit, I felt like it was changing who I was.
Do
But
you know what we call it in the office, Alicia? We call it justified anger. It's anger that I have a right to because that bad thing happened to me. And it's a placeholder and it doesn't allow you to fully heal.
yeah.
So the
And
next
that,
time
and
you
it's,
start
and
to
it's
feel it, yeah,
it's
you
so
just say a
weird.
couple statements to yourself out loud.
Yeah, and it literally came like 10 years later. It came 10 years later, so it's just kind of like. But luckily, I was able to identify it. It took a while, but it was my friend invited me to a Bible study, and it was like that message that I can't even remember the exact message that night, but it was just like,
It was for
I am.
you.
I was like, I am tripping. I got to get back right. Um, but it's definitely so for those of you who feel like you may have had the justified anger, I mean, we really have to tap into that and make sure that we are doing what's best for us. I say it every opportunity I get, especially when I used to do my workout lives. Like I always say, to pour back into yourself. Like yes, we can do all these great things for everybody else. But if we're not pouring back into ourselves and doing what we know is going to make us better, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I'm putting on this fake smile and doing all this stuff to satisfy the other people. Or if I'm really angry at this person, but I'm trying to get on social media to let everybody know I'm not really mad. Like, for what? Who wants to live behind a mask when you can just be who you truly are and just be happy? So I'm really happy that we're having this discussion because I believe so many people are living a false life to present something that's not really real. But no, use the tools, reach out to your resources, like yourself, and figure out, no, how can I get through this thing? How can I actually be happy and learn how to forgive? So but thank you for all of all of that information. I do have one last question for you, but before we
Yes,
get
ma'am.
into that question, I do want to just take the time to say thank you, thank you, thank you so much for, the conversation today, and just allowing us to tap into, knowing more about forgiveness. It's something that you may think like, well, what does forgiveness have to do with, like you said, working out? And as you see, it has a lot to do with your physical health. And this is what we want to push on this platform, just really, teaching people about that wellness.
Thank you so much
Um,
for having me.
absolutely. So my last question is, how can I start to look at forgiveness and unpacking the hurts that I have never processed?
Well, step one is to pay attention to the resources you already have, right? We have four amazing mental health coaches, and we have lots of information, and they're great. You can listen to the lives. That's number one. Number two is gratitude.
Mhm.
Start a gratitude journal. That was so life altering for me when I just sat down and I got this little one offline, and I get it for all of my clients. And it just has blank dates and three spots. And every day I have to come up with three things I'm sorry, I get to come up with three things I'm grateful for. Like maybe it's air conditioning because in the South it's super hot all the time. And
Yes.
I didn't have to do anything. It's in every building and home, and you just get it because somebody else worked hard and created it. I mean, honestly, we could even say be grateful for Jeff and E2M, right? Instead of complaining and grumbling about changes, because we don't have to do anything and we know exactly what to do and everything's right there. We can utilize it. I'm grateful for that. But gratitude is a really big one. And then number three, I would really recommend checking out mental health therapy. Like, I know there's a stigma sometimes. I think it's less than it used to be. It doesn't have to be holistic mental health therapy, but I'm happy to give you information about people in your area that might do what I do or be holistic minded. But talk to somebody, unpack your stuff, because shoving it down isn't going to help you lose weight, because honestly, weight is a barrier between you and other people. So the bigger you get, the less close people can get and hurt you again.
Mm.
Aside, obviously, pregnancy. I don't think you're getting big to keep people away from you. I think you're growing a beautiful baby inside,
Yes,
and
yes,
I'm
yes.
so excited for you. But
Thank
it can
you.
be very emotional,
Yeah.
right? Know your triggers, know what you're eating for. Is
Yeah.
it for nutrition? Because if it's not, I mean, honestly, most of us have disordered eating in our life on some level.
Mhm.
So I would say make a list. Write down the big traumas that you've had, and even the ones that you feel like you think about it and it feels like it happened yesterday. Because it didn't happen yesterday. That was 10 years ago, girl. It's time to
Mhm.
let it go.
Mhm.
So make your list and reach out to somebody. Find somebody that you can connect with and talk about things. And holistic therapy is great because sometimes you haven't even made the connection with what's happening with the why. It's
Mm.
pretty cool how that happens.
Mhm. I love it. I love it. Well, before we get out of here, let the people know how we can stay connected with you if we do have more questions for you.
Awesome. I'm Tamala Reed with the Forgiveness Connection. It's theforgivenessconnection.com. Email theforgivenessconnection@gmail.com. And I'm at 843-708-9764. That's in Somerville, South Carolina. And I work out of a chiropractor's office there. So it's precision chiropractic. We take a mind, body, spirit approach. So that's why I picked them.
I love that. Oh, well, thank you again so much. This conversation was very timely, especially as we are going to be approaching 2025. So, guys, let's try to practice that forgiveness, right? Let's not go into 2025 with this anger, with these grudges, and just get more understanding on what it is we truly need to forgive so we can live a better life.
We've
But
got these really cool forgiveness cards. So anybody that's interested, drop your information, get it to me somehow, and I'll mail you one out. It walks you through how to forgive yourself for something.
oh, I love that. I might need one just to have in the
I'll
house.
send you one, girl.
Right. Somebody start acting crazy. Look, here, read this card.
Mom,
Might
you
get
need this.
some Christmas gifts. But I really do appreciate you guys. But again, thank you so much for tuning in for another great Wellness Wednesday. And until next time, God bless.
Bye. Thank you.